peaceful and beautiful and physical and angry all at the same time.
Were you idiot, your mind would cave in and your heart would explode within your chest.
This is going to be a shame.
Here we go!
Look, there's a few different places we can go here still. Lots to cover on the hockey front. But let's, for a minute, shift gears to the PWHL, because they have been talking, well, we're talking for weeks about stay tuned, major news coming, and then suddenly went dead silent. And everyone, including your insiders, right, your Ian Kennedys, your Haley Salvians, talking about it's expansion. And most people expected Vancouver would be one of them. There would almost certainly be a second. If you're going to Vancouver, it's Seattle would be the one that would make sense to be the partner.
Yep.
And yet, we keep hearing nothing. And it was only 2 months ago, 3 months ago, there was all kinds of news about this was the main reason, this expansion possibility was the reason that you push back your trade deadline a little bit. You give room to some of the European leagues. Is there 2 more teams coming or not, right? Do I want to declare for the PWHL draft, or do I want to stay where, and especially for a goalie? Am I going over to be the 3rd or 4th goalie for one of these PWHL teams, or are 2 more, spots on 2 more teams opening up? This all matters to
everybody.
Yeah. And yet, it's gone weirdly silent. And I can't imagine they're going to do anything now that Women's Worlds has started until at least that's over. Like, I wouldn't think you'd want to draw attention away from that event. I honestly, man, look, neither one of us super connected with the PWHL.
How dare you?
But I don't really understand what's happened here and what the reason might be. Like, at some point, when you told the media we're going to have a major announcement here coming and sort of suggest that it is about expansion, and our friend Shrides did sort of weigh in when I was texting with her not too long ago. She's like, maybe the announcement was supposed to be there will be no expansion, but like, would you have advertised that?
Hey, guess what?
We're going to tell you.
The announcement is there's no announcement.
Yeah, we're not doing it. Is this another dropped ball for the league? Like, are we starting to get worried that maybe it's not happening? Is there a hookup or like a hitch somewhere in one of these cities that has delayed this? Because right now it feels like a bit of a bad look.
Well, sometimes 2 things can be true.
Because this would never happen in men's hockey.
Good job, men.
Yeah.
The NHL's never dropped the ball on anything.
No.
They're always right on top of it.
They are super tight on all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, this is very much on brand for the PWHL, right?
Yep.
Which is when they had the first season and it was sort of everything was sort of, hey, we're doing this,
Yep.
and it's starting and it's going, and it's like this 8-second
Here's a sweater. It's got your town on it. We'll worry about the logos and
8-second
names.
bull ride, and then we're just like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
The whole thing is happening and it's going, and you're like, this is great.
Yeah.
We love this.
Because the tour that they did, I forget the name of it now. But
Rivalry?
No, that's the other one, the Canada versus the USA. But
I'm out.
It was very successful. Set records all over the place in all kinds of cities. There were teams chanting, "We want a team, we want a team," like or cities chant like, and it sure sounded like they were expanding.
I like to chant, Matt. You know I like to chant.
I know you do, man. It seems weird that you would advertise news is coming, and then not announce the news, but also pretend you never said that, which is sort of what it feels like now.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You fuckers, you don't know what I didn't say anything. You said that.
Right.
No. To me, so that is the case. I also hope there is no expansion next year.
Too soon?
Too soon, man. For me, let it solidify what we have. And maybe you feel like that's already happened. The second year has solidified that. I just think when you look at they already have, and I don't want to come across as anything more than a very casual PWHL fan.
Oh, we all are. Just
No, I know, but I'm just saying, to me, you have already tapped into the USA and the Canadian sort of women's non-national team players. Like, we've already gone beyond what is on those two teams.
Mm-hmm.
We have the best Czechia players. We have the best Swedish
Finns.
and Finns. And so you already have those. And so to me, prior to letting that all sort of gel and happen and go, we have this original 6 of the PWHL. Let it solidify before we move to 8.
Well, where are you at on, within the next 3, 4, 5 years, moving to 34 teams in the NHL?
No, I'm against that too.
Like,
That's a money grab without consideration for the product.
right?
And I don't want to see that for both the PWHL.
I think the P-Dubs got a little room here.
Oh, I would agree that
Certainly,
clearly
they're not going to 32 or
They
whatever.
can go to 8 or 10 way before.
Like right now, Ottawa's backup, who is starting because Mashmeyer is down.
She could be a starter on
Gwyneth
some other
Phillips.
team.
She is playing for the USA right now
Yes.
at Worlds. So, like, you got to be careful because goaltending is a little different, and this is one of the reasons scoring hasn't exploded in the PWHL the way they had hoped.
Because the goaltending.
The goaltending is so good. Every night you're facing a star goalie.
Right. And clearly, and you look at Ottawa, you have a star goaltender
At backup.
in a backup.
Yeah.
So, but what you're suggesting then, Matt, is that we're going to dilute the product and it'll become more exciting because there's more goals.
Well,
Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes. And that has proven true most times in the NHL. Every time they expand, Austin Matthews scores 70 goals, which would be the most recent, well, the top.
I love it.
That's the one that comes to mind for me, obviously, right? Is when we dilute.
Did he get 70 goals when Seattle came in?
It was the year after, but.
All right. Not every time.
What I'm suggesting
every time they expand
is that there are no more Connor McDavids out there or Kucherovs
Correct.
out there or whatever. So when you expand the league, another Dakota Mermis comes in or another Travis Hamonic comes in.
Sarah Fillier, though, in terms of that
Right.
second year, number 1 overall draft pick, bam.
But when you expand, you allow more bottom of the league people
Yep.
in, not top. And those top of the league people feast on new bad fourth lines
San
or
Jose
new
Sharks,
bad
Ottawa
second
Senators
pair.
of the early 90s.
And right.
Oof.
And so all of a sudden, McGillney's putting up 90 goals that year or whatever it was, right? Like Timu Solani
Yeah,
or...
80, yeah, for sure, man.
So when you expand and thin things out, the top of the guys are still what they are and they get to feast a little. So right now, nobody's feasting in the PWHL because the defense is so good and the goaltending is so good. And so if you thin it out a little, even just by 2 teams... I fully assume it will be Vancouver, but I sort of
It's
thought...
got to be another Western team.
Yeah, I sort of thought there would be... I think the term I keep using is like a stepping stone. From Minnesota to Vancouver is
Colorado.
far, right? Like, yeah, you got to have somewhere, Calgary or something like that in there that allows you to do a Western road trip.
Well, what was the Calgary women's team? Fire? What was they had
Inferno?
Inferno.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
In the Canadian Women's Hockey League.
Yeah.
And they were incredibly successful, and no one's
they
even
were.
talking about them.
Yeah.
Like in this...
Well, because Edmonton had the big event where
Yes.
they were sold out
Yeah.
instantly.
So, like St. Louis did as well. They were. I don't know that that's where I'd want to go.
Colorado?
but another Midwest, Colorado was also very successful.
Yeah.
But like, you're gonna have to balance this. Like, if you're Ottawa and I'm going Minnesota and then on to Vancouver, Seattle, like, there's got to be a reason to go out there for 2 games, kind of thing, right? And
Because you do have the balance right now of 3 Canadian, 3 American, right? So
and all of it, except for Minnesota in the Eastern time zone, and even Minnesota's not that far.
But if you were to move forward with the Seattle Vancouver, it keeps that same 4-4, and you have
That's true.
and you've moved out further towards.
Do you think there's any chance? I'm only thinking of this now that you're talking about keeping the cross-border thing balanced. Is our orange overlord
The Orange Goblin?
maybe the reason things have been slowed a little? Not sure what cross-border business is going to look like here. I don't know. That's is only coming to me now that you're pointing out there's 3 and 3. We
Yeah.
can keep it 4 and 4.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I want to blame him for everything.
sure.
But no, I don't see that as being the holdup on this.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I do believe making it to 10 or 12 teams would be good. Like, as you've talked about, the dilution in the NHL. We'll use that 90s expansion, right?
Yep.
Right from San Jose right up to the early 2000s of Nashville and
San Jose, Tampa, Florida, Ottawa, Nashville, Columbus,
and,
Minnesota.
And right up through to it just how it became diluted, but that there is talent, and it's sort of the talent then rises to the top, and that will happen in the women's game as well.
Right. Like Connor McDavid, when you added 2 more teams, even if those guys aren't necessarily in Vegas or Seattle, did allow 2 more or 4 more goalies into the league that weren't good enough 5 years ago. And he gets to face them now. And so offense goes up just a little, right? To flush out how this...
and so to me, it's not that there isn't the women. I just don't want to see them overreach before the 6 markets they have. Like, you look at what's happening in Boston and New York, right? Just in terms of New York especially, right? Where they're playing out of New Jersey and they're sort of bouncing. And
well, their first year, they were everywhere. So finding a home is a better...
100%.
But it hasn't panned out perfectly. Boston is still like 40 minutes outside. It's like going to, a Sens game or to Scarborough
like
or
going to
whatever.
Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm playing in Carlton Place tonight. But yeah, to me, I just want to see them get their own house in order before you move out. Like, let's make sure.
The biggest thing for me is the schedule. Enough of this.
Okay, but
these big international gaps every month and a half.
And we talked about it. We talked about this time last year.
Yep.
When Worlds came around.
And earlier this year, the season started. It was like 3 games for everybody, and we're taking a break for European Bs or whatever it was, right? Like,
and you sort of go, guess what?
It takes some time.
We want to make sure that the pro game should eventually be the driving factor.
Yes.
Women are getting paid to do this now.
Yeah.
It's not just we're getting this small stipend. Women are being paid. We can talk about the salaries, but this is a pro league, and the IIHF will have to bow to what is best for the development.
And this
isn't
that
game.
different than men's worlds, right? Where
no, of course, and it happens after the NHL playoffs.
That's right. It happens after. Well, it happens after the NHL regular season during the playoffs. So whoever is left eliminated can go. And everybody else is still playing. You get the best of the
dregs.
And so right now that doesn't happen in the PWH because only 2 teams are out, and you can't run a
women's worlds,
legit women's worlds based on that. So you're either going to have to move women's worlds, which to me is based on the time of year is the most likely outcome here.
But I still love watching the men's worlds. I still enjoy that.
Love is strong, but I do still enjoy watching.
So your team plays in the playoffs. Traditionally, mine does not.
Yeah. Want to see how Drake Batherson looks over?
Yeah, Shabbat, and we got all getting Norris.
Fair
we
enough.
have Stutzel playing for the. We have got
fair enough.
Everywhere.
Not this year. You won't watch it this year.
Not this year, baby. But I'm just saying. To me, it is.
Toronto does the thing quick enough.
Entertaining hockey.
You could still be over there.
You could still be, but
if Toronto does the thing quick enough, it means our guys will be over there.
They're so disappointed, though. Is really all that happens, right? Is they're like, oh my god, there's huge disappointment here. I'm going home, and
they're gonna have to work on their calendar. And
100%.
And work with the IIHF.
But see, Matt, there's so many issues here we're talking about, whether it's communication, whether it's organization, like scheduling and these breaks. There's so many things on the administrative side of the league. To me, the talent is the least of the PWHL's concern.
Well, one of the things that is interesting to me, and I should float this now because I don't think we've had this conversation yet, is the idea, and look, Ottawa has bounced back a little bit since then, but there was that infamous Tuesday night where they were up
down 3-zip.
They were up,
up 3-zip. Sorry, yes.
And got 0 shots in the third period. Blew a huge lead in a game they had that was on the back half of the the New York head-to-head, where you could have eliminated New York and basically put yourself in. And the conversation comes up like, if this is the way they're going to perform, and if they flame out from here, which they haven't, they've bounced back since, but if this is where your season ends, who decides to make the change?
Who gets fired?
Coach, at GM? Because we are still under this one ownership umbrella of the entire thing.
And there's a warm, fuzzy bubble that's happening, right? Which is, this is great.
And so his point
Who's his?
Don and Farhaven, I thought I mentioned. But was Darryl Watts walked out the door to Toronto.
Free agency.
A lopsided trade this year that we thought favored Toronto over Ottawa. The Haley Skamura that brought back Jocelyn Larocque to Ottawa. There was more pieces involved in that, but I said to him, and perhaps, as I would, right? It's not a conspiracy yet, but he's coming from a very Ottawa place.
Yeah. But you are talking about
moving
Darryl
to
Watts,
a Toronto place.
who is a goal scorer in a game when goal scoring is not is a premium. She's never been on the Canadian national team.
But if Ottawa is going to flame out here, does anyone care? Like, Ottawa fans care, but who's going to fire Mike Hirschfeld, the GM?
Well, it's interesting, Matt.
Or, Carla McLeod at coach. And so that's an interesting thought exercise. Like, who's got their thumb on the temperature in each market and decides, enough is enough. We're going to fire a GM here. And then does that GM get hired in another market by the same ownership? Like, they're in a weird place here. And maybe you want to start thinking about market by market ownership before you bring in other owners.
I think that's eventually what happens. But this to me is, you have to get those details tight before you start expanding.
Like, to me, it doesn't feel like this was a let's transport some talent from Ottawa to Toronto in a corrupt way. But I don't think it's a ridiculous
statement
assertion. If you are an Ottawa hockey fan who's gone through that, like I could kind of see, the last couple things that have happened here don't make me feel good about this.
Well, the national team coaches,
in Toronto, and the manager Gina Kingsbury and
Darryl Watts, who was great in the second half of last season. Never been on the Canadian national team, like on the big team.
Right. Let me get there and
now
get
she
looked
is.
at. Yeah.
And so to me, there's just a bunch of things where you start to look at it. And it's interesting listening to Carla McLeod as the season's gone on, especially in those rough spots where she gets defensive with the media.
Yes.
Because you've got to a spot now where the feel-goodness has gone away and it's pro hockey.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I want wins, man.
This is it. And you will be judged on wins and wins alone.
Yep.
And when your team gasses a 3-zip lead in a game, you need to win.
Right.
Guess what? People come to you with hard questions.
Yeah. You're not the fun story. How great is it to have a lead? No, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. Right? How great is it to be selling out and have 8,400 people here and chanting and singing? And no, we want wins.
Yep.
And so these are all good problems.
Yeah.
But this is the growth part. And if you expand too quickly without having these sort of housekeeping things in order,
I agree, man.
I don't disagree with Don and Farhaven that you bring this upon yourself.
Yeah. One of the other interesting things that has sort of been floated over the last few weeks, but nobody's talking a whole lot about, is the idea that we haven't even done it yet, but everybody already hates the decentralized draft.
Yes.
Which is actually kind of funny because Gary Bettman was the one who said, this is a bad idea, I don't want to do it. But he, in every media appearance, he hasn't quite put it that way. He's like, this is what our owners want, this is what our teams want, which is Gary's way of saying, say me, right? When you hate this.
It's the cost of the draft.
Right. Renting an arena, but look, we've sort of talked about this before. This is one of the few things the NHL did as well or better than most leagues, right?
Correct.
Like MLB's just seems to happen in a
happen?
Zoom meeting during some afternoon. The NFL, they do an okay. The NBA, they do like a decentralized thing. There's like a crowd there, but it's the NHL has always, I thought, did a really good job. But I'm also,
eyeballs.
Yes, people watched on TV. People came in whatever building it was going to be. Families were all able to go this year. If you've not been paying attention, it's going to be the league and some of the top players in Los Angeles, but all the teams are staying home. They'll be in their own buildings doing this over Zoom, I guess. A fantasy draft of some sort. And I guess everybody already hates the idea. We haven't even done it yet. Because we did it once. Remember?
During the
pandemic.
Lafreniere.
Alec Trebek did the
the number 3 pick.
For
Alec
Timmy Stutzla.
Stutzel.
Yes. The answer is Tim Stutzel.
Yeah.
Friedman has sort of reported on the idea that maybe you could turn this.
It.
He hates this for sure.
He hates the idea. So.
Yeah, because he would get to normally go and meet all his contacts and, talk to some of these new players, future contacts to be milked down the road. But to be fair, it was a good event, I always thought. So
there's a reason why the Friday night, to me, I always watch.
I do too, man. So the thought that he has presented, and it sounds like someone came to him with, was the idea of the baseball winter meetings, where everyone is in one giant hotel, usually in Nashville or Miami or
a huge complex.
Vegas. Yeah. And there's nothing really happening other than meetings. Like, they're not there for an awards show or whatever, but everyone knows all the owners, all the GMs, all the coaches and managers are going to be in this one place. And so reporters descend upon it. And whether big signings happen or not, you do get these reporters seeing, hey, Mark Shapiro was just talking with Vlad's agent or whatever that might be, right? And they talk to people, and whether the moves actually happen there or not, you can kind of see things flushed out that end up happening in the next week or two. So the idea in hockey would be, especially with the Stanley Cup final now running until like July 7th, some years, you would get to have the NHL awards, the draft, and free agency all kick off inside this one period in one central location where everyone is in one place. Does it seem like a good idea to you? Does it feel forced? Does it feel like, yeah, this is a way to kind of make it all happen in kind of a 3-4 day period? Like, maybe you're not married to July 1 anymore. It's just whenever that weekend falls.
It becomes like Easter or Father's Day.
Yeah, things that float, yes.
You go, it's
Father's Day happens every 3-4 years.
It's the third Sunday of July, and you're like, bam, that's when we do it.
Right.
The only thing that could make it better is if we put the All-Star game here too.
Little rollerblade hockey.
Nobody gives a shit about it anyways. It's going to be on the
Sounds
beach.
like that's off too next year, right?
Good.
Dude, we're all going to fly to Long Island. We're going to have an all-star game nobody cares about. And then we're all getting on the same planes and going to Italy for the Olympics.
I want to see more Jersey Shore. Can we do that?
Just pass on the...
Yeah, this is it. And I understand it is for the season ticket holders and all that stuff.
The sponsors.
Yeah, okay. But
just push it back.
If you roll that sponsorship and the sponsors thing into this summer meetings, because for baseball it's the winter, if we go with summer meetings and you put all these things together, it is a great hype opportunity. Like, we see the Dreggers and the McKenzies and whoever else and the Chris Johnsons at the Board of Governor meetings, and they're in West
Hawaiian shirts.
Honest to God. And you're like, fuck you, man. It's fucking minus 25 here. And they're actually, I was walking in, there's snow blowing in my face. And
that was me spitting off the balcony.
Yeah. Thank you for just only being spit, man. I appreciate that.
I respect you, Rob.
Yes. So to me, I love the idea. I love the idea that it brings, you could make it a week. You really could make it a period where it starts with the draft, and then the Sunday, a Friday night, you keep the draft, Friday night draft, Sunday free agency starts, and it moves. You just sort of have all these things happening.
Can we skip the awards? The awards suck.
I think you do it differently. It gives you an opportunity to sort of reimagine what the awards look like. If you get away from that sort of, I think you put it into if you look at award season for movies and TVs, right? If you look at, there are the Oscars, which you watch and you're like, yeah, whatever. If you watch the Golden Globes, like, it is the opportunity where it's held in a ballroom, but there's open bar and everybody's drinking and people get up and they're red-faced and they're hammered.
But the NHL isn't fun. Like, they're not funny.
All right,
they're
I'm
also
telling
reserved.
you right now, cut loose at the bar, and you have people get up and they're just saying whatever. And to me, that is what the NHL lacks. And if you
remember
do
whatever that C-level comedian was who roasted the Lightning for being eliminated by the Blue Jackets, and the Lightning got all pissed. I'm like, don't ever do that again. Like, I set a record for most points or whatever it was in a season, and then tied the record for fastest elimination in a playoffs. I can't believe they would say.
Yeah.
The NHL's not fun, man.
I know, but that's the thing where we are looking at doing something out of the box.
Yeah.
You have to look at a Golden Globes type scenario for the awards.
Right.
If you throw all that in together,
it's the MTV Music Awards instead of the Grammys, like that style of a little less fun, or a little more fun, a little less formal,
a little less uptight. Right? Like you just
sorry,
do
Ron
awards.
McLean, you stay home.
This is it, and you do bring in. Like, hopefully somebody gets slapped. Like
that guy from Mad Men who hosted John Hamm. Like, this is our celebrity outreach. This is we have one celebrity who likes our sport.
I know, and or Jay
Baruchel.
Jay Baruchel, bring him in.
Sure,
like
Shorzy, let's go.
This is it. Like, but just whatever.
So we're doing this for like the most immature Canadians, and that's it.
We're bringing it in for the hockey crowd, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Where they're going to say things like, hey, or are you up for the tussles? Like, are you like what all these things,
Tussle
man?
of the year.
Yeah, like this is it, man. And so I leave the sin bin stuff to the side, but let's just open the bar up.
I just don't think the NHL is equipped. They like to scurry for like the baseball meetings thing is where you see guys sort of sitting at the bar. Like, it's not a staged thing. There's not whatever. We're just all in the same place at once. And this feels very staged. Like, we're all going to be here, and NHL GMs are pre-programmed to be like, this is the most serious thing ever. We'll all disappear to our suites and do it by phone.
War rooms.
Yeah, I just don't think this is that sport.
I'm thinking about when you look at was it 2009 when the All-Star game was here in Ottawa and they had the Lac Leamy Casino.
That was 2009, I believe. Yeah.
Where Phil Kessel was the last guy.
Yeah.
But there was open bar in the back of that.
Things this guy remembers.
Okay, but open bar and guys are coming out and they're like saying whatever. I remember Eric Carlson going, look at the Sedins. They look like predatory insects and the big domes. Like, but you have people saying things that you're like, oh, don't say that.
Maybe it was 2010 because I think that was also the year that Tim Thomas, they'd won the cup. So I'm missing these up, but they had done one of these drafts. Tim Thomas refused to go to the White House when Barack Obama was the president. And TSN was obviously going to ask him about it because it was like a week before. And Gary Bettman, there's a story in James Duthie's book, is running around like, we can't talk about this. And Duthie's like, I have to ask him about it. And there's this like open bar concept, like this is chaos and whatever. So like, I think there are moments, but the NHL hates those moments.
Yeah. And so to me,
we like them.
Well, so all I'm saying is
as people who enjoy a pint every now and then.
Yeah, this is it. And saying stupid shit. The awards part is all I'm talking about with the open bar. And to me, it's the culmination of the week.
Yeah.
You start with the draft, the serious business. You got scouts doing their thing. Yeah. Then 2 days later, we're
presenting Mitch Marner of the Chicago Blackhawks with the MVP
free agency
award.
starts. And then the following Friday, once things have started to die down.
You can't stay that long. You're staying a week?
It's a week.
No.
Okay, but
they'll never stay. They're going to their war rooms.
Okay, but not everybody needs to be there. The draft is the beginning. I'm throwing this out. This is just an idea.
I'm also throwing it out.
Yeah. You start with the draft. You follow 2 days, 3 days later, free agency. That's when the hardcore stuff happens. Then they're gone. Then you have the awards at the end of the week, Friday night. You got all the big wigs showing up. You have in between, you have sponsors. You got schmoozing. The big wigs coming into town. Your Hart Trophy winners. Your Art Ross guys. This is it. Love that guy. Somewhere else. But this is all I'm saying is your Kucherovs, your McKinnons, your Crosbys, your McDavids all show up later in the week. This is perfect, Matt. I've laid it out. I've given you the fucking blueprint for what needs to happen for a summer.
Hand it to us.
We'll do it, man.
We'll take care of it.
We'll put on a good show.
Yep.
This year's golden sponsor,
The Tall Can.
Tall Can Audio
We'll be hosting this in Peterborough at the Comfort Inn.
at the Red Dog or the Pig's here. We're coming for you.
The NHL
Right.
Awards at the new Norwood A&W.
Well, and guess what? There's fighting on George Street.
Oh,
right?
there has to be.
The No Frills parking lot. Closing time. We're doing it. Used to be the
All
old Canadian Tire. Come
Ryan
on.
Reeves and all the fighters.
Oh, come on, man.
Friday night.
This is it. The tearaway
Outside the
shirts.
Canadian
This, honestly, it's off. And it's summertime, man. It's Peterborough in the summertime. Down a little lake.
It's beautiful.
Come on, man. We're doing this.
The lift lock brawls.
I am so fired. I said, Matt, we should do this.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's our hesitation that will be the thing that holds it up. But,
All right.
We can go from there.
We are open and available that weekend. I don't know what weekend it is,
Super available.
but we are.
Often available.
We're here for you, NHL.
I thought it generally sucked. I didn't think it was a specific suck. I thought it was like an all-encompassing type of suck. So, we're going to try and rectify that. But for right now, I'm going to be pretty pissed about it.